It started with $7 and a winky face. Not a screaming match. Not lipstick on a collar. Just a $7 Venmo charge from someone named Albie Beach with umbrella with the caption, "For the view winking faced." That was it. That stupid little emoji, the wink. Like this guy thought he was James Bond buying a dirty martini. Now, I'm not paranoid by nature. I'm not the type to scroll through my wife's phone looking for signs of treason. But when you've been married for 4 years and living in a Brooklyn high-rise that costs more than your soul, every dollar counts. Especially when it's leaking into some mystery guy's pocket like a slow faucet behind the drywall. So I asked her, casually, as in, "Hey, babe, who's Albie with the beach emoji?" while making pasta like it didn't matter. She looked up from her phone, blinked twice, and said, "Oh, he's just a guy from the gym. We shared an Uber once." "Cool," I said. "We tipping Uber drivers for the view now?" She laughed. "Light. Easy. He made a joke about the skyline. It was a thing. Don't worry about it." I didn't. For about 6 minutes. That night, after she fell asleep in one of those oversized t-shirts that's supposed to make her look effortlessly adorable, but really just screams, "I've checked out emotionally," I sat on the edge of the bed and opened Venmo. It wasn't hard to find more transactions. Just had to tap friends on her profile and let the breadcrumbs fall. Pizza for the queen, from someone named Nate. Wine o'clock wine glass, from K. Lunch escape fire, from JD. All for $5. $9.67. $13.40. The captions were always casual. Playful. Some might have been innocent. One, maybe two. But stacked together? It looked like a loyalty program for infidelity. So I built a dummy account. Created a guy named Troy M. Used a stock photo of a tattooed dog walker with a sleeve and a pit bull. Linked it to a prepaid debit card. Added some payments to fake friends with flirty captions. Built a network of fake connections. Then I added her. She accepted within an hour. That told me everything. Because normal people don't accept random dog walker bros into their Venmo feed unless they're living in the algorithmic gray space between flirting and plausible deniability. From there, it got ugly fast. Every night for a week, I cross-referenced her payment history, matched timestamps with when she said she was out with friends, stuck late at the agency, or doing yoga with Marissa. Marissa, by the way, hadn't lived in New York since January. And those friends, they weren't splitting bills. They were leaving digital tips. A $6 payment here, $8.50 there. One guy sent $3 with the caption, "That smile though, smiling face with hard eyes." Another one wrote, "Same time next week." I copied it all, screenshotted everything, built a spreadsheet. And that's when the idea hit me. If she wanted to build a secret economy of affection behind my back, I was going to treat it like a business. I spent the next 2 weeks creating a presentation. Not a rant, not a confession letter. An actual, sleek, professional-looking deck. Title, The Hidden Economy of Infidelity. Subtitle, A Case Study in Modern Digital Cheating. Each slide was beautiful. I used a matte charcoal background. White sans serif font. Red accents. I listed each man she'd transacted with, anonymized at first. I graphed payment patterns. Highlighted suspicious captions. Ran sentiment analysis on the emojis. I even created a slide called Emojis, the new currency of lust, and broke down usage frequency. Then I made it an NFT. Uploaded the full deck to a crypto art site. Locked the high-res version behind a mint gate. Described it as a digital autopsy of modern betrayal. And people bought it. But here's the kicker. One of the buyers was listed under an alias I didn't recognize. Just a string of letters and numbers. But when I traced the wallet address, because of course I did, I found the buyer had linked the NFT to their personal gallery, which was tied to a public Twitter account belonging to her boss. Yeah, her boss. The one who'd invited us to his place in the Hamptons last summer. The one who gave me a side hug and told me I was a lucky guy. The one who apparently thought he could fly under the radar with $11 Venmo transfers and the world's dumbest captions. So now I had 2 options. I could confront her, or I could let her keep paying into the fantasy while I turned the lights on. Guess which one I chose? People don't realize how much of their soul they leak online. Every heart emoji, every pizza split, every lazy little Venmo caption, it's a confession. A breadcrumb trail of "this didn't mean anything" moments that, when stitched together, spell I thought I'd never get caught. And that's what made this so perfect. She wasn't just cheating. She was crowdfunding it. After I uploaded the Hidden Economy of Infidelity and watched it get quietly minted into a digital whisper campaign, I didn't rush. Didn't gloat. I just sat back, watched the wallet IDs roll in, and let the paranoia do the heavy lifting. One wallet linked directly to a LinkedIn profile. Another to an Instagram bio that featured NYC Finance /NFT collector /dogdadpawprinced. Every time I traced one, it looped back to someone in her orbit. A coworker, a gym buddy, a creative collaborator she once described as totally harmless. They were all buying in, literally, and they had no idea they were buying themselves. Meanwhile, back at the apartment, things were oddly peaceful. Suspiciously so. She was sweeter, more present. She started cooking again. Little things she knew I liked, like crispy Brussels sprouts with too much salt, and that weird cereal she said made me look like a lumberjack. I played along. Every "how was your day" was a performance. Every kiss goodnight was a soft, polite middle finger. Because now I wasn't just her husband. I was her ghost, haunting the infrastructure of her lies. Then came the charity gala. She asked me to go like it was no big deal. The agency's hosting a fundraiser for urban arts programs, she said, pouring wine like it was 2019 and we weren't 10 payments deep into infidelity theater. You don't have to stay long. Just enough to shake hands. Do the whole supportive husband thing. Sure, I said. Let's show off the power couple. The event was at some converted industrial space in Soho. Brick walls, Edison bulbs, a band playing jazz covers of pop songs, which is how you know the hors d'oeuvres will be microscopic and overpriced. I wore the suit she liked. She wore the dress that made people say things like, "Wow, you clean up nice." We smiled, posed for photos, shook hands with donors. Everything was polished. Then she introduced me to her boss. That boss, the NFT buyer. He was taller than I remembered. Slimy handshake. Smug in that, I used the word synergy unironically kind of way. He looked me in the eye, real firm, and said, "So this is the husband. I've heard great things." I held his gaze, smiled. "You've seen great things." He blinked, just once, then laughed. "Right. Well, glad you could join us." She didn't catch it. She was too busy managing social optics. But I knew. In that moment, I saw it. The flicker. The realization that I knew more than I should. That maybe, just maybe, he'd bought something far more expensive than an NFT. The next day, I sent him a message. Anonymously, of course. Subject, asset disclosure. It was a Dropbox link. Password protected. Inside, a single slide from the original deck. Just his Venmo payment. $9.43 with the caption, "For the view winking face," circled in red. No explanation. No accusation. Just the data. Let him do the math. He never replied. But 2 days later, she came home early. Tense. Said the office was weird lately. That her boss was acting distant. That someone had made a weird joke about payment histories. I just nodded. Probably nothing. Then she said it. "You ever think about leaving New York?" It came out soft. Careful. Like she wasn't sure if she was asking me or herself. "Sometimes," I said, "but I'd hate to lose my connections." She didn't reply, just poured wine. That night, I checked the NFT stats again. The deck had been shared, quietly, on Reddit. Then in a Medium article called "Digital Cheating and the Collapse of Intimacy." Someone had embedded the slideshow. Commenters were dissecting every caption, every emoji, like it was a Rosetta Stone of digital deception. A new buyer popped up. Alias, Truth Seeker 21. Wallet traced back to an email. That email belonged to one of her clients, a woman she did freelance branding work for. The same woman she once told me was going through a divorce because her husband cheated. The irony was so pure it felt scripted. By now, she'd stopped using Venmo. Switched to Zelle. Thought it would be safer. Cleaner. But the damage was done. Her name was digital folklore now. I should have stopped. I didn't. Because once you start pulling threads, it's hard not to see how many people are wrapped in the same web. So I built a second deck, titled Platform of Lies. A follow-up case study, focused entirely on social media posts. Cross-referenced Instagram photos, timestamps, locations, and captions. Tracked who liked what, who commented, who appeared in the background of girls' night selfies, but also left thirsty comments on her Venmo. The overlap was damning. One guy liked every photo, paid her coffee money, and appeared in 2 tagged group pics at networking events. Another one, her personal trainer, paid her $6.66 with the caption, "Devil made me do it," smiling face with horns. He showed up in 6 tagged stories, 3 untagged, once in the reflection of a wine glass. I packaged it all, uploaded it, let the audience find it. And they did. Now it was spreading, quietly, like a virus with a sense of irony. Meanwhile, she couldn't figure out why her professional life was stalling. "Clients aren't responding," she said over dinner one night. "Everyone's flaking. I don't get it." I shrugged. People can be flaky. Then, just for fun, I added, maybe they saw something they didn't like. Her eyes flicked up, searching, but I was already biting into takeout. That weekend, she asked to go to therapy. "We should talk to someone," she said. "Figure out what's happening to us." I almost laughed, because nothing was happening to us. It was all happening to her. But I agreed, because if she wanted a therapist, I'd be happy to bring a witness. Therapy. Of all the stages of post-affair theater, that's the most performative. It's the curtain call for cheaters. The place they go when they still think miscommunication is the reason they were caught with someone else's emoji in their payment history. She booked the appointment herself, said she found someone neutral and professional, a licensed marriage therapist with a loft office in Flatiron, decorated with succulents and quietly judgmental lighting. I Googled her. Ivy League background. Soothing website. The kind of font that whispers, "We process pain here." I agreed, of course, because if Brenda wanted to perform accountability, I'd bring the script. We showed up on time, hand in hand, like 2 polite liars trying to pass as people who still kissed with their eyes closed. She wore that soft cashmere sweater that made her look wholesome, vulnerable, the outfit she always saved for apologies. Dr. Larkin welcomed us in with a smile that said, "I've seen worse." We sat on a couch that was just too firm to be comfortable and were offered water we didn't drink. The usual. Then came the opening line. "So," she said, smiling between us, "what brings you two in today?" Brenda took the lead, naturally. We've been distant. There's been some breakdown in communication, some mistrust. I almost clapped. Distant? Breakdown? This woman was moonlighting as a freelance girlfriend for the digital elite, and she had the nerve to call it mistrust. Dr. Larkin nodded, jotted something down. "And when did this mistrust begin?" I leaned back. "About the time her Venmo got more action than our bedroom." Brenda stiffened. "I told you, those were innocent." I turned to her. "You think For the View winking face is innocent? Because if so, I've been seriously underutilizing my finance app." Dr. Larkin raised her eyebrows. "Let's try to speak from our own experience. Rob, can you share how that made you feel?" Oh, I could share plenty. It made me feel like I was in a relationship with a startup I didn't invest in. Lots of users, hidden metrics, shady partnerships, and eventually, a public offering I didn't authorize. Brenda scoffed. "So now I'm a business?" "No," I said. "You're a product. Monetized intimacy. Available in $7 increments with flirty captions." Dr. Larkin looked between us. "Have either of you considered a temporary separation?" Brenda flinched. I smiled. "Already underway," I said. "Emotionally, at least. Legally? We'll see." After the session, she didn't talk much. We walked back to the subway in silence, dodging tourists and street vendors, the weight of that 1-hour confessional still pressing on her shoulders. At the station, she said, "That wasn't fair." "What part?" "You made me look guilty." She stopped. The train roared past us without slowing. "You're enjoying this," she said finally. "Not enjoying. Documenting." That night, she slept facing the wall. I stayed up late scrolling Reddit. The thread discussing my NFT had gained another 100 comments. People were speculating about identities, theories, hidden meanings. Someone called it the Banksy of relationship exposés. Another asked, "Is this real or performance art?" I upvoted that one, because honestly, even I wasn't sure anymore. The next day, things got worse for her. She lost a client, then another, both with vague emails about directional shifts and internal restructuring. Translation, someone's been talking. By the end of the week, she'd started panicking. "You think someone's targeting me?" she asked over dinner. I stabbed a piece of asparagus. "Define someone." She glared. "You don't get to be smug. This is my career." "Funny," I said. "That's what I thought when I married you." Later, I checked her LinkedIn. She'd updated her title again, consultant brand strategy advocate for authentic digital relationships. I couldn't make this stuff up. I considered dropping slide 22 from the deck onto her profile as a comment, the one with her full emoji usage breakdown by time of day, but decided to wait. Patience is everything. Meanwhile, her boss? Silent. He'd locked down his Twitter, changed his Venmo to private, pulled out of 2 upcoming conferences where he was scheduled to speak on integrity in leadership. I watched it all unfold from the comfort of our overpriced couch, sipped whiskey, took notes, uploaded a redacted version of the deck to an obscure ethics blog that did surprisingly well in the Reddit finance sub. Brenda didn't ask how I was spending my nights. She'd stopped asking questions altogether. One evening, she came home with a bottle of wine and a desperate smile. I was thinking maybe we could reset, she said. Try something simple. No tech. Just us. Cook together. Talk. I stared at the bottle. Organic. Hand-labeled. Probably cost more than the dinner she ruined last month. Sure, I said. Let's talk. We cooked. Pasta again. Full circle. I let her feel calm. Let her feel like this was salvageable. Then I set the table. 2 plates. 2 glasses. And right in the middle, my phone, propped up, screen lit. It played a voice recording. A man's voice. Thanks again for last night. Your place has the best view in the city. Her eyes locked on it. She recognized the voice. She reached for the phone. I snatched it away. Oops, I said. Must have hit play by accident. Where did you get that? She whispered. I told you, I said. I document. She left the table. I ate alone. That night, I started writing the next chapter, not of the deck, but of the memoir. Not public. Not yet. Just notes. Outlines. A story titled The Passive Income of Heartbreak. Brenda? She started sleeping with her phone under her pillow. Classic cheater move. But it was too late. Her social circles were shrinking. Clients fading. Influence eroding. All while I kept smiling. Hosting dinners. Volunteering at events. Rebuilding a new version of me that looked exactly like the guy she used to fake a future with. Just better. Because here's the secret. You don't beat a liar by yelling. You beat them by letting them run out of story. And Brenda? She was almost out of pages. There's a sound to reputational collapse. Not loud. Not crashing. It's soft. A kind of social exhale. People stop responding. Invitations dry up. Texts go unanswered just long enough to sting. One by one, your relevance fades until even your curated Instagram captions echo in a vacuum. Brenda was finally hearing that silence. The change was subtle at first, a missed coffee date here, a vague something came up there. But I knew it had started when she came home from a networking brunch looking like she'd walked into an ambush. They were weird, she said, dropping her tote bag on the table. Kara barely made eye contact. Liz kept steering the conversation away from my agency stuff. I nodded, stirring my coffee. Maybe they read that article. She blinked. What article? Oh, I said deadpan. Must have slipped my mind. It hadn't. A contributor to a mid-tier marketing blog had picked up the Hidden Economy of Infidelity and written a think piece titled The Venmo Trap, When Transparency Exposes Treason. They'd blurred the identities, used fake names, but the details were unmistakable. New York, branding consultant, pattern transactions, suggestive emojis. It was like watching a bullet travel in slow motion. No impact yet, but the air had shifted. She Googled the article that night. I heard her typing, then the pause, then the soft, panicked whisper. Oh my God. The apartment went quiet after that. But the world outside wasn't done with her. By Wednesday, a client she'd pitched to 3 times emailed to postpone indefinitely. Another one ghosted her completely. One of her oldest contacts, a lifestyle blogger with 500,000 followers, unfollowed her and scrubbed every collaboration post from their grid. She started triple-checking her privacy settings, changed her Venmo name, set her profiles to private, removed tagged photos. But the internet is a graveyard, and everything she buried had already sprouted somewhere else. Meanwhile, I was thriving. Quietly, casually. I hosted a poker night with friends she thought had taken her side. They hadn't. They just didn't want to get involved, until I showed them slide 15. The payment trail from Brenda K. to one of their wives' ex-boyfriends. With a heart emoji. They looked at me like I'd unlocked a hidden level of adulthood. The calm husband. The analytical avenger. They poured me whiskey and toasted to the long game. Brenda didn't ask where I'd been that night. She was too busy drafting apology emails to people who weren't replying. Then came the ultimate insult. A woman from her gym, not a friend, not even a close acquaintance, posted a story titled, "Know Your Worth," with a screenshot of a Venmo caption nearly identical to one Brenda had used. The implication was clear. And the comments? Brutal. Some people need to remember Venmo is public. Girl, that coffee money ain't innocent. Glad I never trusted her branding instincts. Brenda cried in the bathroom that night. Quiet, shaky sobs behind the door. I didn't interrupt. Instead, I set up my laptop at the kitchen island and began compiling Platform of Lies, Part 2. The sequel deck. It wouldn't be public, not yet. This one was for leverage. For posterity. For the inevitable moment when she'd try to rewrite the narrative. Because cheaters always do. They wait for time to smooth the edges, for memory to blur the facts. Then they start talking again, whispering their version to anyone who still listens. Casting doubt. Planting seeds. Hoping someone, somewhere, forgot what they did. I wouldn't let her. This deck was organized by category. Transactional patterns. Timeline correlation. Witnesses, names redacted. Emotional manipulation instances, highlighted texts. I even added a slide called Digital Ghosts, post-exposure behavior patterns. Brenda starred in all of them. The next morning, she tried to act normal. Made eggs. Put on music. Wore lipstick. You want to go out tonight? She asked. Clear the air. I smiled. You want dinner or a confession booth? She didn't laugh. Neither did I. We stayed in. She drank wine. I watched her watch me. That's when I realized she didn't know who I was anymore. To her, I'd become something else. A mirror she couldn't predict. I didn't yell. Didn't throw accusations. Didn't play the jealous husband. I just reflected her failure back at her, with evidence, precision, and quiet detachment. And that scared her more than rage ever could. Because rage you can explain away. He was emotional, you tell people. He lashed out. But me? I smiled. I documented. I shared. She was waiting for the blow-up. She didn't understand the slow dissolve was the blow-up. I started sleeping on the couch. Said I needed space. She offered to leave. I told her why rush. You already left. Emotionally. She moved her things to the guest room. We became strangers with a shared mortgage. I checked our home value. Watched the market rise. Waited. Then, one night, she asked, "Are you ever going to forgive me?" I looked her in the eye. Not while you still think you deserve it. She looked away. Took her glass. Walked down the hall. The doors shut like punctuation. After that, I started getting messages. Anonymous ones. Quiet thank yous. People who'd seen the deck. Recognized the signs. Some were men. Some weren't. All of them said the same thing. I thought I was crazy. Then I saw this. And I realized something. What started as revenge had become a blueprint. A public service. Because Brenda wasn't rare. She was just the one who got caught by someone who knew PowerPoint. And I wasn't done. Not yet. Because the NFT was gaining value. And someone was about to bid high. Too high. And when they opened it, they'd see themselves on slide 3. The auction went live on a sleepy Thursday afternoon. I set the floor price high. Unrealistically so. This wasn't about profit. It was about posture. I'd added a final slide to the Hidden Economy of Infidelity. Slide 32, front and center, title in bold. Who's buying betrayal? A cropped screenshot showed a wallet address next to Bossman NYC in light gray text. For full luxury, I blurred it just enough that only people in the know would get it. Kept the listing cryptic. The NFT site churned. Bids started trickling in. Wallets with names like Truth Seeker, Coin Collector 99, even Little Lady, all bidding quietly, never realizing I'd stalked their identities offline. Not one whispered betrayal came for sale, until the bid topped $20,000. That's when I got the message. No signature. Just, don't go public. You know why? It had the effect of a cold breeze. Because it wasn't a threat. It was a handshake. That buyer? It was Bossman NYC. The one whose picture I couldn't publicly post, but whose identity was eggshell clothes in the metadata. The guy she slept with. The guy she put before me. And now he was paying to keep it hidden. He'd realized his mistake too late, but was willing to pay to save it. Brenda's world closed in real time. She got the alert. Someone fronted 20 grand for the truth. I could imagine the panic. Maybe she turned her phone off. Deleted the app. Lacquered a smile when she showed up at work. It didn't matter. She wasn't paying attention to the bigger narrative. I came home that night. Wore the same suit I did at the gala. Dinner waiting. Quiet. Her eyes darted when I stepped inside. Not guilt. Not regret. Fear. The kind that doesn't leave, ever. I sat across from her, silently. She asked, "Did someone buy it?" I nodded. "Who?" I smirked. "Someone who didn't want their face on the blockchain." She swallowed. I stood and walked over to the kitchen window. Looked out at the city lights. "You loved him enough to hide it from me," I said, voice low. "Now you broke him enough that he's paying to pretend it never happened. You turned betrayal into a currency. Now it's cost you more than I ever could ask for." She didn't speak, just stared at the floor. I walked back and said, "Finish your dinner." She nodded. Every now and then, she'd glance up at me like she didn't recognize the guy across the table anymore. The one who tracked every payment, tagged every pattern, flipped every script. That night, I filed the sale. Transferred half the proceeds to a tech charity. The rest went into a joint savings account, our safety net, even if she wasn't in it anymore. She moved out the next week. Quietly. No drama. No message. Her silhouette at the door looked small. When she left, I touched the empty seat, then walked inside and closed the apartment door behind her. Later, I checked the blockchain. Sale complete. Chain intact. And the silence? It echoed like victory. There's a moment after the bomb drops when the dust just settles. No sirens. No screams. Just quiet. And in that silence, you start to realize the blast wasn't the end. It was the beginning of forgetting. Brenda was gone now, physically, finally. Left behind her robe on the back of the bathroom door, her reusable Trader Joe's bags, and a ghost of the woman I used to know. The woman who once laughed at my terrible jokes and said things like, "We're solid, right?" over brunch. The woman who thought secrets stayed safe if you wrapped them in emojis and digital small talk. Now she was just another name in a spreadsheet. A profile scrubbed from my apps. A private account I no longer cared to check. And me? I was doing fine. Not healed. Just unbothered. The sale of the NFT closed quietly. No fanfare. No headlines. But the irony was beautiful. A man who once paid her $7 for the view winking face now paid $20,000 to make sure no one else ever saw his. He thought he'd buried it. He didn't realize the real story never needed his name. Because what I'd built wasn't just a presentation. It was folklore. People passed it around like a cautionary meme. A case study and checked the payment notes. Reddit threads dissected it weekly. Some thought it was satire. Others called it modern art. But nobody, not even Brenda, could stop it. And that was the point. Because she'd built her world on appearances. Pretty posts. Impressions. The illusion of control. But I burned that illusion down without ever raising my voice. I made the architecture of her deceit visible. I made it beautiful, marketable, immutable. Even now, people still send me messages. "Bro, that slide with the emoji chart? Genius." I showed this to my ex. She turned ghost white. "Thank you. Seriously, you saved my sanity." I replied to none of them. The art speaks for itself. Brenda tried to rebrand, of course. Started a new site, new logo, new mission, helping women find honest digital presence. The irony almost crashed my browser. She even went on a podcast, talked about navigating toxic relationships and recovering from digital invasion. I listened once. She never used my name, but I recognized the edge in her voice, the desperation to steer the ship when it's already underwater. One of the hosts asked, "What would you say to women who feel watched?" She paused, then said, "Don't give them anything to track." The irony was nuclear, because you can lock down accounts, hide your likes, scrub your timeline, but you can't erase a pattern. Not when you've left a payment trail that reads like a short story. Not when your own boss paid to hide his guilt. She still lives in the city. I saw her once, from a distance. Walking fast, eyes down, earbuds in. She looked thinner, tired, like someone who couldn't quite tell if the whispers were real. They are. Meanwhile, I sleep fine. No rage. No grief. Just peace. I read more now. Host trivia nights. Spend time with friends who never once asked, "What did you do to push her away?" I tell jokes. The same terrible ones Brenda used to roll her eyes at. People laugh now. I still keep the decks on a hard drive. Not to share. Just to remind myself, I didn't go crazy. I paid attention. And I think that's the legacy of this whole mess. You don't have to scream to get even. You don't have to hack phones, hire PIs, or go nuclear in group chats. You just have to watch. You have to listen to what's not being said. Track the rhythm, the language, the symbols. Because liars don't hide what matters. They hide it in plain sight. In captions, in winks, in split bills, in casual transfers. And if you're smart, you flip the script. Turn betrayal into data. Turn data into art. And let the world do the rest. Because the final act of revenge isn't exposure. It's permanence. And her story? It's minted forever. Subscribe to the channel